have like done critiques before? Got Arthur Lee, awesome. Kate, I'm assuming the X is a yes or a no. Um, no, you haven't done a critique. Okay. Suma has, sweet. Let me see. Streaming quality. My first time watching too. Okay, great. Okay, so critiques, just like when I was in school, I remember doing critiques, and a lot of people get nervous about getting critiqued on your work because some people think it's a judgment thing. Critiques are not about judgment. Critiques are all about proactive ways to like diagnose what you're trying to solve, how you're trying to solve it, talk about what works, talks about some things that could be fleshed out. It's generally just a good discussion that everyone can take part of to basically understand and get feedback of your work. Even today, I've been designing for a very long time, and I've done a million critiques. And I've always enjoyed, and I've always had so much fun with them because I think that even as much, even as you get really, really like mature at your craft, it's really good to hear what people think. And there's going to be hurdles that we all kind of hit that will stand in our way. So sometimes, like getting a critique or watching other people's work get your critique may get you over some barriers. So I think critiques are awesome. So I appreciate the 5 of you who have submitted. You guys will all 5 of you will get your points, and I really appreciate it. So I'm kind of going in blind here. I really often when I do critiques, I don't like to see things before because then I overly think it. So we're going to start now with Arthur because he has to bounce. So we're going to watch this real quick. You can adjust the stream audio by clicking the ellipsis icon. Ellipsis icon. Not this one. Right here. I can't do shit. Oh, for us viewers. Okay, cool. So I'm going to start with Arthur's, and then we will get into about a 4 to 5 minute critique. So let me know if you guys can hear this. Okay.
Hi everyone, welcome to Focus Time, my submission for the critique of the XR design competition. It's about the Pomodoro technique, which is 25 minutes focused work and 5 minutes break. If you see this icon here, it's an hourglass. We're going to be using an hourglass for the diegetic part, the natural affordance of flipping and unflipping the hourglass. So let's get started. Let's pinch. Cool, so that's the hourglass. We have a distance grab going on here. So you can hold your hand out to grab the hourglass. So let's just clench our fist and grab it. I'll just pinch. And great. Yeah, you can flip it to start and flip it back to pause. So all these panels have a 5-second delay to get to my eye level, and then after that it becomes a look at. So let's flip it. So once you flip, imagine you kind of like paired your computer screen and you're getting to work. The light dims around you, and if you can listen carefully, there is some music playing, lo-fi beats, rainfall, how you get this on. So you can hear. So as I gaze at the hourglass, you can see the exact countdown timer. So yeah, and of course, flip it. It pauses it. There's also like buttons to stop and reset this whole thing. And of course, I mute the music. And after that, you can like continue again, and the animation will continue. Yeah, so that's more or less it. Thank you so much. Honest feedback is welcome. I want to continue this core concept, but just make this better. Yeah, thank you so much. Bye.
Okay, Arthur, that was sick. Great work, dude. This is awesome. So it's interesting because I've heard a lot of people attack this Pomodoro technique, and I think that it is a really, really cool thing to go after because I think that focus time and getting yourself in the zone is perfect. And I think one of the things about XR, especially as it becomes more ergonomically comfortable, like it is a great place to get focused. So I'm going to scrub through this real quick. So the thing I really like about, so you've kind of hit a lot of the stuff already when it comes down to natural affordances and, focus, and you have your onboarding there. You kind of hit all of the things. Um, so one of the things that I think that's interesting in what you did here is that hold you kind of tell people to grab this hourglass, and you use the physical hourglass to basically signify the start and beginning of time. And I think that's cool. And I think that the turn over of the wrist of here is a really interesting one. But as you can see, you're kind of having a hard time doing it. So like ergonomically, that would be kind of tough. But you are matching human like position. The thing that I but the things that kind of actually jump out at me that I really, really enjoy here is that um, you do command space very, very well. I think that focus of changing your opacity and getting people focused, and then with the accompaniment of sound, is actually really, really like that's really interesting to me because I think the ability to command space is super like cool. But then you also do some things here, which I don't honestly like. This focus area, I think, is plenty because I think at some point this object kind of becomes, unless if you have like sand, but this like the sand really kind of doesn't signify a lot of time. Like it's really this that signifies a lot. I think this as a trigger is interesting, but like the turn of the hourglass, I think could be kind of you're going to chew up a lot of your focus time on the hourglass. But then what you also did here is that you offered the ability to stop and start your audio. So, quick question for you, Arthur. And yeah, listen, can you invite him up to the stage, Melissa? Um, yep. So, quick question for you, Arthur. So, like, when you're thinking through this process, what do these things do? Does this like turn off the music? Does this stop the timer? Is he on stage?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Oh yeah, so essentially what I was thinking about is like what's the pause state? So this is like when you flip the thing, flip the hourglass, you're like pausing it. And after that, like what would you want to do? So you might want to like reset the whole timer and then like start from the 25 minutes from the top.
Oh,
You might want to mute the music. So those are what the two buttons are for. Yeah.
oh, that's great. And then, so another thing, so like when you focus, because it seems to me like when you're focusing, you are focusing on your desktop, correct?
Yes. Yeah. So like the dim lights and the music stops when you pause it. So yeah.
Okay, so like so the focus of a lot of this is what you're doing is like you're focusing on work, right?
Correct.
And this right here is in direct proximity. It's in kind of like interesting proximity over to the right. Is there a reason why you put it over there versus like remove this and put the focus on top of just like letting you know?
Oh, so the way I saw it was like it's gonna be a physical hourglass, so the user can kind of like position it wherever they want. But I just position it within a frame on the side, within the frame. But as for whether it should like I don't know, like move to the top or something, and become like a smaller version of the hourglass, open to those ideas.
Yeah, I think so. Like if you've watched Apple Vision Pro, which is like you're taking a lot of patterns from Apple Vision Pro, with Apple Vision Pro Vision OS 2, what they're allowing you to do, which is actually really exciting. There's like their documentation's out and their videos are out, which is really cool. They allow you to take objects or windows and snap them to different positions on a window, right? So the cool thing about that is that when I'm working on when I'm working in Apple Vision Pro, I sometimes I will take this area and I'll move it down at a like rotated view and I'll start working because that's just like ergonomically like beneficial to me. And for me, my question is like if I'm using this Pomodoro because like this is really a journey of I want to start I want to focus on starting like the focus time, then I
Yeah.
want to focus. And the way that I am focused, like this should be the primary focus, and this should be a secondary or tertiary focus. But this shouldn't get in the way of
Mm,
this.
yeah.
So, and I think that like what you're doing is like this is like awesome. Like I love it. The question is like where are you demanding focus? And you putting it to the side is not a bad thing. It's kind of like, okay, I'm deliberately not shoving this in your face because I want you to focus. But if I'm
Yes.
always turning my neck, I like that just am I going to be doing this all the time? Or
Uh,
could you basically do a hit area on top of here? So like when I look up, right? Like maybe like this hourglass turns into the timer and gets stuck up here, but then it dims. So then you focus. So then if you look up, you have the timer. These are things I'm not saying you have to do. I'm just saying these are things that are interesting concepts.
ideas. Yeah. I get what you mean. Yeah. Because I think I remember like the Quest had like an old like interaction with like the fitness information. So even if you're playing like a game or whatever, you can just like look up and you see like the fitness like the dashboard like information there. So I think that's what you're kind of like implying here, right? Something like
Yeah.
that.
I mean, a lot of things about for me personally, I think, and you don't have to take my word as like
Hmm.
like
Yeah.
ironclad, like the truth. I'm basically like what I'm basically trying to get at, and what I'm trying to figure out and like create structure around in my philosophy is that it's a lot of this stuff is purely about intent, and it's purely about like human centered design and commanding, like allowing people to command their own space and do what they want. And I think you've done that with 3 or 4 things here that are working out well. It's just when you're working on this, I think like one thing I would say is like, well, what's the main user's intent? Is it to look at the timer? Is it to work? Like, is it to actually work? Like, what's your philosophical like belief of like how people should balance the two?
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. Quick question. So if you were to go with like that idea of it minimizing, maybe say at the top of the desktop or something, and then it looks like, and there's a treatment that makes it a lot, a lot less attention grabbing. How would you kind of like trigger it again to pause the timer or to do the flipping again? How would you like start that? I
Well,
think
there's a
that's
couple different things you can do. I mean, so like you can take so basically what you can do is like when you have this timer, you can have it like flip and then turn into you can do a cool animation, have it go up here. And it
yeah.
matters where you want to stick it. You can stick it at any position. Maybe you would want to do like you want to prototype that sticking because that can get you like your really interesting signifiers and affordances to stick it. But then like the way I would trigger it is like if my eye gauges like where are the hot zones, right? Is this a hot zone? Is this a hot zone, right? And then you can also time it where your eye looks at it. And then if you want, if your eye looks at it, you can have it slightly dim the more they focus on it. Or if they look over and pinch, they can have it appear and then they can either stop it. If it stops, it turns into the timer and flips out, right?
Hmm. Oh, okay, that's really interesting. Okay. Cool. Yeah.
I
Okay. Let
yeah,
me
I
write
think
this down before I forget.
no. It's awesome. Like I to everyone, I highly suggest checking out Vision OS, like the WWDC stuff they just did. The kind of stuff that you're doing and the kind of stuff that a lot of people are doing. Like Apple's really taken um, they up their game with Vision OS. It's Vision OS finally feels somewhat complete now, and the thinking and allows you to have relational content to things is really cool. Okay, cool. Well, thanks, dude. Yeah, I want to make sure we get to the rest of them. But do you have any questions for me?
No, I think I'll try to figure out that whole like minimizing interaction. I'll definitely try to make it such that the focus is less on the hourglass now, especially when you're in this mode. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank.
because like the job to be done here is focusing, right? The job here
Yeah.
to be done is managing your, and you can also add all kinds of. I can keep going because like this stuff you did such a great job so far. This is awesome, dude.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thanks for the feedback.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. Okay, let's take a look at this. Haji, Hajira. Hajira, I'm sorry. Awesome possum. Hajira, let's get you on the stage. Unless if you don't want to, you don't have to. Oh, thank you.
Hi, Gideon.
Hey, I can hear you. How are you?
I'm doing good. How about you?
Good. Okay, so tell me a little bit about this concept. Like what gets you excited? What made you decide to do kind of like a game and stuff like that?
So I wanted to do designing instead of coding. This whole thing is done in Unity without any code. I have used Unity events. So I wanted to push Unity as much as possible to design without coding.
Hmm?
And I felt like
That's tough.
sorry?
That's tough. Go on.
Yeah, that is tough, but I just wanted to see how much I could push it. And this was what I was able to achieve. A VR escape room was something I'm very interested in. Like whenever I find it, there's a VR escape room, I try to test it out, and that's why I was interested too, and for this project.
Oh, that's great. Okay, awesome. So yeah, let's get into it. So I'm gonna turn off the sound from now. What I it's interesting what you've done here is that you focus. It seems like you focus like your onboarding is a lot of text, and it tells people kind of what to do. But your natural signifiers, I guess, to a certain extent, is the ability, or the natural affordances is the ability to pick up. And that like picking up and having clear signifiers to do that, I think is pretty awesome. I can tell you utilize a lot of interesting signifiers of like where you can slot things and stuff like that. And it was an interesting. It's a very key focused experience. Now, one of the things in this application, like I think it's a cool, like the escape room concept is interesting because I think that you have to balance discovery versus painting the picture for them completely. You want them to have to put things together. It's kind of like, I guess part of what you're doing is actually creating problems to get them to think through versus trying to help have them like solve it for them. So in that case, like I think what you've done here is pretty good. Now the signifiers, I think there's some signifiers here that are like a little interesting. Like for instance, like you have like really nice what do you call them? Socket signifiers here that you get with Unity, which is awesome, which kind of tells you what you can do. What I would probably try to do here is I would try to signify that something hasn't been added here. So like right now, I have a solid green and I see a solid green ruby. Maybe what I would try to do is have this be a different shader, maybe a different color. So it's like it signifies something hasn't been collected yet. But the thing that's nice about you having all these chests is that it signifies things that you need to find, right? And right now it seems like these are things that have already been found. Now, this is just a work in progress, I know, but I think that, that kind of stuff is super, super powerful.
Yeah, I
Another
agree.
thing that, huh? Yeah, okay. Another
Yeah,
thing
sure.
that there's also, so like my question here for you, and there's like not a right or wrong answer to this, like basically this key, the hard thing about this key is that it's visibly just blending in with the concrete, right?
Yeah.
So and that could be purposeful, right? That like
Yeah.
you want people to try to find it. But at the same time, it's like there's no real clear signifier that the key exists in there besides, besides that. Now you could add some cryptic message that is like a rhyme that gets people to try to find the key, right? There's like, I think that like a the thing that's interesting that's kind of coming to me is that, as I said before, the goal of an escape room is basically trying to solve riddles. And I think that I would like to maybe see more riddles and like to get people to like really think through it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure. So maybe like 3 more.
Sure. I mean, like what I would do is like the thing I really also enjoy about what you're doing um, is that you are also using a lot of audio as signifiers as well, which is like really really nice because it lets you know something has happened. So like when you got the key, like right now, like what you have here, you have a kind of like a lot of instructions of telling what people to do. Let me
Mm-hmm.
see. And I think that like what I would probably work on is maybe your instructions could be a little bit more cryptic because the whole goal of it is like to give riddles and have people try to do things. And then everything that is grabbable, have a really nice signifier that represents it's grabbable. Because this book in this candle have the same signifier, right? Which is nothing. So like I would make sure that I would just be very, very clear about what's selecting. Because your main affordance for like diegetic design is the ability to pick up and maneuver. And so just make sure that you have the clear signifiers of like what's the difference between something that's grabbable versus something that you need to like versus like a key item. And then like what are you missing? And then like having the hints that you can put up. Like you can do some really interesting UI design here with your text. So I think that you've hit a lot of the main requirements. Like you are having content fit to the human form. The question is like if I'm moving throughout this world, maybe if you decide to do kind of like you don't have to like cryptic messages or like a riddle, maybe you can have that follow you around or put it on your wrist or something like that.
Okay. Cryptic message would be something
Like a riddle. So like if you ever go into an escape room, you basically they give you a bunch of like riddles to solve, right?
Yeah.
And you have to go on.
Yeah, I was actually thinking to do that, but usually escape rooms are really difficult, and the riddles do take some experience. Like those who have gone to escape rooms are able to solve those type of riddles. But I wanted to my game to be a bit easier for anyone to do it because not everyone has gone to an escape room. So that
Hmm.
was the idea. But I understand your point as well. Regarding the signifiers for the grabbable objects, what kind of signifiers could be good? Something like some shining object, you mean, like some shine on top? I have
The
added
shine,
bloom of them.
shine could help. You could also have like on top of it, you can have a. Let me see. I'm just trying to find a good example of. I apologize for clicking around a lot. Like when I look at this book, you can add shine like a shimmer to it, or when you get close to it, you can have an icon that looks at you. That's like a hand that grabs, like a GIF or something like that. You can do that as well. There's like you can be as subtle as you want, and you can be as like deliberate as you want. It matters how you or like in your face. Another thing, what you could do which I think that you're right. You don't want to make it so hard that no one knows what the hell to do. But you could also add hot zones around places to look. So when you get close to something, like something happens, right? A signifier, like, your room can turn a specific color, or you can have like in your peripheral view, you can see like maybe a slight gradient of like gold that basically does it. You can use audio. You can get louder when you get next to things. There's a lot of different ways you can use signifiers, and using audio, as I said, these are all things you can do. And you can hijack the person's view, but you have to be very, very subtle about it.
Okay. What I did regarding the grabbable object is that I made all the other things not grabbable. So we are not able to grab any other objects in the scene except the ones that we need, that is required to be grabbed, like the coin or the book. We need to move the book, but we cannot grab the candle. That is what I did. And another thing that I did was I made the objects appear as related to the type of thing that we are finding. For example, when we need to find the green gem, we need to push the button. The button comes up, like it shows up only when we put the gold coin in its casket. If we do not put it in the chest, and the push button is not there. Similarly, the center chest, which is there with the key, that also comes up only when after I put the green gem. If I do not put the green gem, that doesn't come up. It's not there in the scene.
So basically you're requiring people to understand the layout of the scene.
I made sure that other things do not appear, or they appear step by step, so that they do not get confused, or like they're not wandering around.
Okay, I think that's cool. The question I have then is like, how do you sig? Because like, if I put this in here, the button's going to appear behind me. I had no idea that button appeared behind me. It could have been there because I don't know this room, right? So the question I have is like, when I hear the unlock, can I turn, and then can I have this appear in front of me, right? Because when I put something, if I click this down, I may hear a sound, but I don't know what that is. You can use spatial audio to basically say, play it behind me, and then I turn around, and then like this appears, right? You can use that.
Yeah, I get your point. Yes, understandable.
Well,
I think that will require code in Unity. I will just
maybe. I mean, you also just use ChatGPT, dude. Like ChatGPT can help you a lot with it, and actually, code is maybe a little bit easier, honestly, than the state machine. Unfortunately, in Unity, but this is awesome. It looks like you had a lot of fun. World building is a lot of fun. I love that you did your confetti, and you did all of this without any code. So awesome job.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you. Okay, so let me get to the next one.
Thank you so much, Daniel, for your feedback.
Yeah, if you need any help, like hit us back. You did a great job. You're going X. Taking it to the X. Oh my god, yeah, I've seen this. This is amazing. Okay. Sick. That shit's sick. Awesome work, Lucas. Yeah,
Yo, how's it going?
dude. Awesome possum. I mean this is, well, your work is usually pretty damn good, but this is like, this reminds me of a lot of like a Greg Madison kind of concept he did, but like you kind of took it to like another level.
Yeah, I love his work. Yeah.
yeah,
Definitely
I do too.
inspiration. Uh-huh.
Yeah, man. I mean, I don't know, man. You kind of, it's hard for me to critique because it's like you're doing a lot of interesting things here. Like I guess like I the flow of everything you're using, like audio, you're using gravity, you're using like these socket positions that really allow you to work in your space well. And yeah, I don't know, man. This is freaking awesome. I mean, well, why don't you tell us a little bit about this project and what made you interested in it?
Yeah, sure. So I'm doing like this series of little prototypes like this, just to like explore a little bit interaction design, which is something I haven't done before so much. I have a background more like in XR development in general, actually more like in multiplayers, networking stuff like that. But I think I realized I really love interaction design. And it's just something that I just tried and found this old video that I had that I shared in LinkedIn. And people kind of loved it, so I decided also to start like making more of those. And
Yeah.
I just yeah, I don't know, I just love it. And well, this one was, I made it for this challenge, you know, for this for the XR design one. I mean, I already shared it, but I feel like I still want to work a little bit more on it for the submission. But I made it because of the diegetic design.
Yeah, it's awesome. I think that like what's interesting about this is that it is like a lot of juggling, but I think that's kind of the fun of it, right? I mean, I'm assuming you're gonna flesh these out so we'll know exactly what they do, right? And like the question, like, and it's tough. I think one of the hardest things about you know, a lot of flat like hand UI is that you're also competing with this fucker up here, right? Which is like something that I've been battling with myself. But like I think that like the juggling of things is like, I don't, you know, at first I'll be like, that's kind of weird because like it would be kind of a pain in the ass to do everything, but at the same time, that's kind of the fun of it, right? You're just being able to spawn these things and play them at will. The question is that like, how would I know to do this?
Yeah, I was guessing that you will like critique that part. Yeah, that's definitely something that I will need to work on. Like, how do you tell the user that you have this hand menu, and what are these little spheres that you can pinch them to select them? Yeah, there's like a lot of stuff there that can be improved.
Yeah, I mean, I think that like that's when I look at this for the most part, like it's interesting because like, are all of these clickable right here? Like I know this is obviously recorded because it has that red signifier, but like, are all of these clickable or what is this? It's all blocky. Does it say loop or what does it say?
It says record, and then you have rewind, forward, and then you have play and stop. And those are the two that are the last two are the white ones are touchable, and then also the eject, the last one to the right.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, like, go on.
I just based on this model that I found in Sketchfab, and that's how I based the buttons. I guess that's also not so great because it's like there's some buttons that are not used and they're not interactable, like the first two white ones. So I guess that's something also that can be improved. Like just have 4 buttons, right? You don't need all of them.
Yeah, what I would probably try is just make your own. Are you a 3D modeler or no?
I can do a little bit of Blender.
Okay. Like the thing is that like I know what red does. I don't know what these do, right? So
Mm.
like if you like having just very very clear signifiers, also like trying to hit individual buttons with, especially with your hand at a distance, could be very tough. So like you can, if you make those suckers big, I think what is it? I think if it's about 0.5 meters away for direct touch, they basically suggest using something like 44 or 60 millimeters.
Mhm.
And so like, adjusting that would be interesting. You could also have this thing like have buttons adjust by distance and scale. So like
Mm.
the further it is from you, you can make the buttons like change size, and then the closer it is, you can reduce it if you want. There's little things like because like you're basically multitasking here. And the question I have also for you is that is it record? So it seems like it's recording from this object right here, right?
Mhm.
So how are you recording that?
So I'm just using the microphone of the headset.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean that was the initial idea, but then I realized the microphone of the headset has like a strong noise
Yeah.
cancellation thing happening, so it would only record my voice regardless if I was playing super loud. um, so then I connected an external microphone, um, and that kind of works. I mean, it's a new feature actually that they support external microphone. So I just
Mm.
connected my actually I just connected my webcam that has the microphone integrated, and it works. And I could like record. Like my webcam is in the lower left corner. I'm not sure even in the video shows. At some point, I think it shows the lower left corner of the table. I just taped the webcam there. There.
Yeah, I mean, this is awesome. I mean, I would like the thing that's cool is that I want to know another thing what you could do because like a lot of this is about recording audio, right? So like, how do you signify if it's purely because like if I'm going to be using this, if I'm going to be testing this out, because like for me, I want to know exactly what I'm recording. Now,
Yeah.
like the juggling of external shit, you can do that. I mean, that seems like a heavy workflow to be like, do you want to, external, which one, this one, this one? Like you need to get to the system level, which is kind of a pain in the ass. But like if it's purely audio and voice, you can like signify that too. Because like it
Mm.
was interesting because I heard the tick, but you're also using the metronome, which is in itself, it is digital, right? So like you have a mixture of digital, which is really cool, and you're having a mixture of mic. And what you can do with that is pretty darn sweet,
Mm.
right? Like yeah. And again, like I know we're over time, but like you're also like I wanted to give you props for like the physics of this thing. Like your like little drop. It's just it's so it just feels damn good. And so wait, how are you like okay, so like this is all on MetaQuest Pro, so or like the MetaQuest. So basically it's like you're using the SDK that allows you to get your room, right?
Yeah,
Or is it
exactly.
oh
Yeah, I'm
okay, that's sick.
using the Meta SDK that allows
Yeah,
you to get some information from your room, and it
sweet.
just automatically adds a collider on the
Yeah.
table. It's pretty works pretty straightforward now right now. So yeah, you set up basically well right now. It even like automatically recognizes your room now when you scan for the first time, and it will like set the furniture and tag the furniture automatically. Um,
That's awesome.
and then the app can access that same data. It can create some colliders in Unity. Yeah.
Oh, so like it does your stuff fall off the table?
Yeah, they can fall off the table. I actually throw the the metronome. I throw it um, away when I don't need it anymore.
Oh, that's great. That's like actually a really interesting affordance.
Yeah, and then it gets destroyed when it hits the
Oh,
floor.
that's great. That's
Mm-hmm.
awesome.
Mm.
It's those little subtle things. A lot of detail work, dude. Arthur, sorry, Arthur. Sorry, like Lucas, this is like fucking baller. Awesome work. I hope this was helpful. I mean, like your shit's this is really good.
Yeah, thank you so much for your feedback.
Yeah.
At the first glance, you can see there is a cube on top of the middle finger, which shows that you use that finger to do something. So let's try pinch and drag with the middle finger. It makes a cube, and you can use your index finger to move it around. And I can create more cubes. I can put it there. And I can switch primitives by pinching the middle finger. Now I can create spheres. So I have one here. I'll create one more here. But what if you want to create a perfect sphere? Well, when pinch and dragging, you can use the scale functionality to create perfect. The UI is a bit wonky. I will fix it later. But yeah, here's that. I also have the undo. Undo and duplicate. They both don't work yet. But this is the current app I have. And I also did the gesture to reveal pass through and go back to immersive mode.
Some Vivek, awesome work here. Let me get back to here. So, Vivek, can you chat real quick?
Of course.
Make sure I can. Oh God. Okay. Yeah. There you go. So yeah. First of all, this is sick. I have a lot of things that I really like about this. Do you want to tell us a little bit about this before we jump into it?
Yeah, of course. So I got this idea after trying out OpenBrush for the first time on my Quest. It was really magical to create something in a virtual world, and I want to try if it's possible to do it with hands, especially Meta's infection CK is quite powerful. So my goal was to create something with minimal UI, but with 3D. Like you get to create 3D objects and assemble them to envision whatever idea you have. And right now the goal is to have your dominant hand to be the brush, perhaps, and your non-dominant hand to house all the options like undo, duplicate, and I'm planning to have the index finger on the left hand to do special functions like scale when drawing something. And it's just like holding down shift key when creating a square on Figma or something like that. Right now I just have this. I'm trying to do more based on feedback I get today. And that's it about it.
Okay, dude. Okay, so the thing I love about this concept is that creating shapes and creating anything in XR is a difficult task, especially using your bare hands. And this just felt freaking awesome. There's a lot of the things that I love about this real quick. Well, first of all, like the ability to create with your middle finger and your thumb is really, really cool because it seems like you can get really, really precise. I also loved the thing that I kind of realized. I'm like, okay, like as soon as you said like, what if I want to have this, like have a perfect sphere? The first thing I thought was like, could I just use my other finger? The way that you did it, right?
Cool.
Like, so like, that's like the first thing I had, like, okay, if I want to do this, I'm like, I know how I would do it. I'll do it with the other hand. And that's exactly what you did. And I'm like, oh, this is interesting. Like it's weird because the first thing that hit my head was like, you kind of nailed it, right? Like you don't have to like onboard people for that, because I mean, you should, but like at the end of the day, like you kind of nailed that down really, really well. Let's talk about another affordance that you kind of put in here, which was, the wave. Like this transition between space and stuff like that is really, really interesting because what you're doing is you're fanning across your space, which is like, it's kind of like you're washing or you're wiping away something into your physical space. and then you bring it back in. And I think that's like a really interesting way to trigger it. Like all that stuff is really cool. The biggest things I would probably say from like I was wondering like how could we solve them or how could you solve them is like how do you signify to people what's happening? And maybe like the goal of it is just to play and figure it out. Hold on. My dog is pissed. And so like right now it's like it's interesting here because like you have little signifiers here that says scale and stuff like that. But here it's just kind of like you kind of have to figure it out. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's like it's definitely interesting. But like kind of like what we're looking at with Lucas is it's like how do you onboard people into actually creating something, right? And I think that's just like a very difficult problem to solve, but I think you can do it. Another thing that's like that I would probably try to tweak is like right here. The hard part about when you have things follow a hand like this is that you have like this variable typography that the further it gets, it's going to be harder to read. And is this like looking at you, or is it like stuck on the position of a hand? So like if I move it around, is it always going to be looking at me, or is it always following like the position of my hand from a rotation perspective?
From the rotation perspective, it looks at the camera, but it moves on the hand.
Oh, okay. So it actually looks at your head all the time.
Yeah, all the time.
Oh, that's great. Okay, that's great. So how are you handling variable scale?
So the intention behind the description of scale is, when you use a real product like a sunscreen, you kind of bring it closer to look at what the SPF level is or how to apply it. Something similar.
Sure.
When you keep your hand afar, it doesn't show the description. Only when you bring it closer, it shows the explanation of what the tool does. It's kind of like a tooltip.
Yeah. That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
I mean, basically, another thing is like the question I have is like, I like the idea of it being a tooltip. The question is like, from like a draw call perspective, it's like maybe you can try messing with making this render on top of this, right? So like your tooltips will always take precedence of like how they're drawn over your shapes, right? So like
More
that
like
way,
a screen overlay.
yeah, kind of like an overlay, because that way, like you could actually push people's because like if that's always going to appear over everything you create, that means you can actually because like if I'm trying to create something to read at the same time and say this sphere is getting big and I can't see it, like how do I read it, right? Because like the more I move my hand away, the more it's going to grow, right? And so like that's something that you can play with, but like I think like this is super solid. I'll be interested to see what happens if you add physics to this thing. And so like I think that would be interesting. Like how so when you were designing like these other little things, you said you haven't fixed them yet. Are you having trouble? And I don't know, like are you having trouble like getting that to like where you wanted to, like the duplicate, duplicating what? Undo. So
Yeah.
like undo is middle finger. Okay. Oh, that makes sense. So your primary action of creating is with the middle finger of your right, and with your left hand, it's undo. So I can just like.
Yeah.
Okay. That's cool. Yeah, man. I mean, this is sick. I love it. You're taking this is great. Do you have any questions for me?
Yeah, I just thought of a onboarding experience. When the first time they launched the app, I could ask them to look at their hands, and when they look at it, I could show all the options on top of the fingers and make them go through one by one, like more
You could do that.
immersive experience. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So like, there's a lot of different theories of onboarding. One of the things I don't like, and not saying you're going to do this, but I don't like what they call it coach marks, where it makes you realize everything you have to do right away and memorize everything. I hate coach marks. And a lot of people use them because it's easy to do that versus like a long drip method of onboarding, which basically gets people to create, over time. But like, I think that you could get people like, you can have like, raise your hands up to your head. And then maybe you can even like play with like different UI that pops up that's like passive that basically says raise your hands up, and then as soon as you raise your hands up, you can have your little fear pop up and just like burp, and then it says then it says pinch finger, and then as soon as you do that, then you just allow them to play. So like you kind of get them into them, and then you kind of make them kind of think about like looking at your other hand, right? I think that holistic approach versus like a heavy-handed approach, which like hits you over the head with a mallet, is like you have that if you can weigh that state of play, but you've already established really good affordances with your hands. You've already done a lot of the hard work. It's just about like how do you get them to get into that experience and do it really like cleanly.
Yep, that's helpful. Well, thank you so much for the feedback. I appreciate this. Thank you so much.
Dude, love you. This is great work. Awesome job, dude. People are going crazy. Awesome work, Vivek.
Speculative design.
Okay, hold on. I didn't hear Alex.
Hi, my name is Alex, and this is my demo exploring not only diegetic design but also speculative design. So just a little bit about the concept. I wanted to explore new ways that you could communicate with the public without actually speaking with them. Everyone is different. Some are introverts, some are extroverts, some are having a bad day and they don't want to talk, or someone may be lonely and they really do want to talk. So without further ado, let me just play the demo. So right now I wanted to show like kind of the controls and how you can move around. I want to include teleport as well as continuous moving. And then showing the controls for the grabbing, where you can grab a newspaper and it tells the user a little bit about the concept. Just enough so that they're encouraged to walk around and speak to the characters in the scene. So right now, there's no audio attached or anything. I want to include audio so that each of the characters can kind of show you what each of these symbols mean. So green, for example, would mean, oh, I want to chat, or yellow would mean, oh, I don't really want to chat today, and then red means, oh, I don't have time. And then when you walk back here, you will see a thought-provoking question that the user can ponder as they leave the experience. So yeah, that's basically it. And I just want basic feedback.
Well, first of all, awesome work. I know you told us already a lot about this, but what inspired you to create something like this?
Yeah. So I mean, I come from a background of exploring speculative design and in school, as well as like feeling kind of. Well, I'm just gonna start. Like I have family members who are like on the spectrum, and so I know that communication with the public might be a little jarring. But even for people that aren't on the spectrum, if you're feeling, I don't know, you're just feeling like you're having a bad day, but someone else at the grocery store wants to like chat you up, and you're like, I don't have time, or it's just an easier way to communicate. And so I went with the symbols as like stop signs, like the colors. But I also thought about, well, what if people are colorblind? And so then I implemented shapes, and of course, then we're questioning like, is it universal? Like, a stop sign is different for other countries, some other countries. So, anyways, yep, that was a lot.
No, it's interesting. I mean, I've done a lot of product in a lot of system design. So yeah, like symbols, internationalization, all this stuff is really cool. I love the concept. I think what I like about the concept a lot is that it is like a very social concept of like in the future how people may possibly communicate with each other. Like in a sense of like, I don't want to be talked to versus I do want to be talked to. The thing that I found interesting is that you place it in such a position where my eyes automatically hit those points quite quickly, right? Like for me, I was like kind of wondering exactly what each one of those meant, and then you kind of explained that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like this is kind of like an onboarding of like if you were going to have this system, this is you explaining like what these things mean, right?
And also, ideally, each character like would have audio attached to them. So when you walk by, the audio would be triggered, and they would tell you a little bit about what each symbol means. So, for example, with the older woman who wants to be talked to, she would kind of give that like hint, and similarly the other ones as well, and like how they want to be talked to. But I'm just curious, like how the user like thinks about this concept. Like how are they going to feel? Like what if we lived in a future like that? Yeah.
I think we very much will live in a future like that. I think it's going to be a while, but I think, when everyone's kitted out and everyone has this sense of like defining yourself in this digital presence, I think it's really interesting. So what I like about what you're doing here from a broader concept perspective is that you're trying to tackle a hard problem. You're trying to, you're trying to signify to people, like signify a lot of different things. You're doing a lot of onboarding. Now, the thing here is that what I would say is that what we're seeing here is like you're trying to onboard people with a variety of preferences, right? Like continuous movement versus teleportation versus rotate. When would someone want to teleport versus when someone would want to move? I would imagine that has to do with motion sickness, for the most part. And so like I think that's interesting. I think that like there's part of me like where like I think it's fine to do a lot of like telling people of what to do, right? From like a menu of like here are the rules of the place, and all that stuff. My question is like, how do you think you could do this without having to read a bunch of menus to do it? I'm not saying you have to. I'm just saying like, how would you solve that problem? Because it's a hard problem.
It is
right?
a problem, and it's something that I've kind of explored in the past and dropped it because it's such a challenge.
It is.
Especially with Mozilla hubs, and like I tried doing a whole tutorial, but yeah, anyways. I learned that pacing is super important, which is why I didn't put gripping, like the gripping like instruction on this sign. I did it near the daily newspaper. And I even thought that maybe this was a little too much, as far as like move, rotate, and teleport. But I did want it to be accessible because some people can't do the continuous moving. So I don't know.
No, I think you did a good job. Again, it's tough. Like there's part of me where I'm like, the stuff like I also like the kind of work you would have to do to have a conditional logic to say, if they decide to do continuous movement, they use continuous movement. If they want to do teleport, doing teleport. I think that there's a lot of conditionals in there that's more complicated. I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. I think it's just like it's interesting. So like and the thing that we've done here is that you've used a lot of like external signifiers, which I don't think, again, it's not a bad thing, about what to do. You're connecting these lines, and it kind of works because you basically have already framed up the concept, right? You're using this natural like door in a hallway affordance in proximity to basically establish what you should do. Grab. What do I have to grab? I have to grab this. And it's very, very straightforward. So I think it's great. I think that like maybe you could add a little bit extra signifiers around this paper to basically you can make it glow or stuff like that. But you're using Mozilla hubs, right?
It's in the past. Yeah, this is Unity. So.
Oh, this is Unity. Okay, yeah. Cool. Okay, yeah. So you basically, you can reinforce these things quite well. And I think that like I'm interested to hear like I think audio will be a huge thing. The question I have is like when you go to these people, and let's say someone who I think you're thinking about accessibility in a way which I think is really cool. The question I have is like if someone can't hear someone talk, like how do you represent what they're saying?
Yeah. I mean, I could include subtitles.
Yeah.
At the same time.
Sure.
I thought about that. I did think about that.
So like the quick question for you.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
So if I have subtitles, right? like the question is like when you're doing audio, how do you you need to like because like this person wants to talk, this person doesn't want to talk, right? And what you can really like reinforce are these badges, right? And like you can get into a proximity meter where you get next to this guy and you can have this badge grow or get like brighter, and you can say like don't talk to this person. But then you could also say when you do subs, what you can do is instead of it following you around, it can always like you can appear underneath the person and you can have it kind of look at you while you move towards it, and then you can scale the text to basically scale up or down, determine like based on the person's position.
Okay. What do you mean by that? It's like subs. What do you mean? Oh,
so like
titles.
Subtitles.
Yes.
Sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
So sorry. Yeah. So like, imagine if this person's like, you know, hey, I'm Caitlin. I'm just really not in the mood to talk. You seem cool, but not having a good day, right? Like you could have that pop up, and you can have it trigger because, like, you know, I'm assuming what's going to happen is that, like, do you want this to trigger and like basically you don't like these people don't want to actually physically talk, or are they gonna have a pre-recorded message, or is it like how is that gonna work?
So I think it's just it's gonna be like in this concept they're supposed to be like actually speaking, but it's something that I'm gonna record ahead of time, and it's more so just to explain like what each of like an idea and like how these symbols would be used. So even though the person that has a red symbol is like, I don't want to talk, like I still want the user to walk up and understand what that means. Does that make sense?
No, it makes sense. And so like I'm really interested in like the mechanics of how you could like do that. Right.
Oh, yeah.
Because like if I walk up to her, like I'm just making this up. Imagine like you put a collider around this person, and you know, maybe the closer you get, it signifies to them that they are really interested in talking.
Oh, yeah.
But maybe with this yellow person, the collider's a little bit, you use distance and space to signify this person doesn't really want to talk. And with the red, you just hammer in this person for sure doesn't want to talk, but you can go do it anyway, right? So like you can also use personal space as a really interesting affordance in this situation.
Yeah, I definitely thought about like how could I implement something that would be used in real life or physical, like in the physical world versus like virtual. And so I was thinking about that. Like these are tangible objects, right? That you could put on your chest versus something that is like floating above your head or like, you know. But to make it more immersive, I could totally think about ways to draw like the user into each one. Yeah.
But I love the idea of a personal space indicator because, like, I think especially in the States, I want my personal space. Everyone wants their personal space here. When people get too close, I'm like, get out. But it's definitely something that is a cool concept. You did a lot of awesome work here, by the way.
Thank you.
Do you have any other questions?
No, I don't think so. Thank you so much for your feedback.
Yeah, keep up the good work. I'm excited to see it.
Thanks.
I think that was everyone. Does anyone have any questions we can answer before we bounce? Awesome session. I had a great time. I love this stuff. It's so much fun. I love seeing like all of the cool ideas everyone's playing with. There's just so many really cool. There's a lot of things here I just never thought about. There's going to be another one. There's another one like a couple of days after. I want to make sure that I'm going to be home. It's going to be on Saturday at 10 a.m. So June 22nd. Awesome work. Thank you, guys. Thanks for coming, everyone. This has been a success. Awesome work. I'm excited to see how all this stuff fleshes out. Okay. Take care, everyone.